In today's lesson, we are going to be talking about surprise endings in picture books. Now, surprise endings are not predictable, but oftentimes authors will put patterns in their books, repetition of words or phrases to hook the reader or perhaps gain their attention into what the story is about. But the surprise endings have different purposes. Sometimes a surprise ending could be to make the reader laugh or to make them predict something that the character did, or maybe something unexpected happened. But oftentimes authors use surprise endings to make you wonder, question, or like I said, maybe it is just to make you laugh. But today we are going to be reading Where the Wild Things Are. And as we read today, I want to take notice with you the different patterns that the author has within the text and in the pictures. And then we are going to talk about the ending and see maybe we can figure out the purpose to why the author ended the book the way they did. Now, the story and the pictures are by Maurice Sendak. So we're going to be trying to figure out Maurice Sendak's purpose of the ending in Where the Wild Things Are. So let's get started. All right, the beginning pages and title page, Where the Wild Things Are, right there. One more here. Let's see. Let's think we could predict who these guys are and who this guy is over here. Now these might be the wild things because they look kind of wild, but let's find out who he is because I'm not sure who he is yet in the story. All right. The night Max wore his wolf suit and made mischief of one kind. There he is making mischief. The picture shows him hanging stuff up in his room, curtains. He's wearing a costume. Also, I noticed that the story said his name was Max, and he was featured on the title page there, so now we know who that guy was. And another, so he made more mischief. His mother called him Wild Thing, and Max said, "I'll eat you up." So he was sent to bed without anything to eat. Is. That very night in Max's room, a forest grew. See the forest growing in there. The moon outside too. The trees are all around his bed. And grew. There's a lot more trees in that picture. And grew until his ceiling hung with vines and the walls became the world around. So in the last 3 pages, I noticed a pattern. They repeated the forest grew and grew and grew. And in this illustration, we can see that we can no longer see his bed. We still can see the moon, but now Max is completely in a forest. Oop, I skipped a page. And an ocean tumbled by with a private boat for Max, and he sailed off through the night and day. There he is, in a boat. And in and out of weeks and almost over a year, wow, to where the wild things are. A lot of travel time to get to where the wild things are. And when he came to the place where the wild things are, they roared their terrible roars and gnashed their terrible teeth, and roared their terrible eyes, and showed their terrible claws. So there are some of the wild things, and they are those creatures we saw on the front page. Till Max said, "Be still," and tamed them with a magic trick of staring into all their yellow eyes without blinking once, and they were frightened and called him the most wild thing of all. So Max now There's Max telling them to be still. And now he is considered the most wild thing of all. And they made him king of all wild things. And now, cried Max, let the wild rumpus start. So I wonder what a rumpus is. Maybe, let's look at the pictures. Maybe we could see what a rumpus is. Oh, I think we might be able to make a prediction about what a rumpus is. See all those wild things kind of dancing and prancing around the moon. There still must be a rumpus going on. Climbing through the trees, wild things are looking at each other, and Max is swinging on a branch. There's the wild things, and now Max is on top of them during the rumpus. Now stop, Max said, and sent the wild things off to bed without their supper. And Max, the king of all wild things, was lonely and wanted to be where someone loved him best of all. Then all around, far away across the world, he smelled good things to eat. So he gave up being king of where the wild things are. So Max wanted to go where someone loved him, and he smelled something good to eat. But the wild things cried, "Oh, please don't go. We'll eat you up. We love you so." And Max said, "No." The wild things roared their terrible roars and gnashed their terrible teeth and rolled their terrible eyes and showed their terrible claws. But Max stepped into his private boat and waved goodbye. Do we notice a saying that was on this page that has been said before in this book? I think I have. The wild things said to Max, "We'll eat you up." And if we look back, in the book, before Max went to where the wild things are, he told his mom, "I'll eat you up." So there are patterns in this book leading us to the ending. And he sailed and sailed over back over a year, and in and out of weeks, and through a day. Just like he did to get there. There's another pattern there. And into the night of his very own room, where he found his supper waiting for him. Remember, he left before he got sent to his room before he could eat the last time he was home. The last page says, "And it was still hot." And that's the end of the book. That was quite a surprise ending, especially because if we think about the pattern that I talked about right before the ending, it talks about how he traveled a year, multiple weeks, and a day, there and back. But somehow, when he got back to his room, he found his supper waiting for him, and it was still hot. So that is a surprise ending, especially when we think about how long it seemed that he spent with the wild things. But maybe we can think about why the author decided to put the surprise ending where he ended up being at home where his food was still warm. Now, I don't think it was to laugh, and I definitely think it caused us to wonder and question and maybe predict. Let's make some predictions real quick. I think I predict that Max's adventure, turning his room into a forest and traveling all that time to get to the wild things, maybe Max went to bed and he fell asleep and he had a dream that he went to where the wild things are, became the king and the wildest of them all, and he woke up and his mom left his supper there for him. Or maybe it really did take a year, a couple weeks, and a day to get back, but as soon as he got back, his mom had supper ready for him. Now I have a challenge for you. Perhaps you're a Max and you just got home to your warm supper. What would you do first? Well, he was probably really hungry. One, he said he was hungry and wanted to be with someone who loved him. So I want you to make a prediction. If you were Max, what were the first 3 things that you would do when you got home? Also, we can discuss why we think the ending was a surprise ending. That's today's lesson.